Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to do three what I call quick cards. Here using the dark embossing on dark surfaces, kind of experimentation, tests that I've been doing. These are three different surfaces. One is a plain cardstock, which is the one I'm splatter painting right now, and it's a 4.25 by 5.5 quarter size card, but it's pre-folded, okay? This right here is a very mirrored red foil cardstock, okay? I don't know if it's actually cardstock, but that's what they refer to it as. And this one is the blue one's the Stardream Lapis Lazuli, and this is just a text weight iridescent type of metallic cardstock or card. Okay, now I kind of smeared some of that bleed-proof white on that red foil there, but that will wipe right off. And it doesn't matter if it's wet or dry, you can get it right off. Okay, comes right off. And that bleed-proof white, the splatter painting that I just did, that paint dries very quickly, unless you get like some really big spatters. Okay, we're going on to these pieces with the VersaFine Clair black pigment ink, and I'll be stamping out the Lakeside Cove Large here. Now, I missed that some of those trees there on the right-hand side. In my haste to do this video, I just didn't have enough blotter paper underneath my scenes that I was stamping out, so I just re-stamped those some additional trees there, and it fills it right in. That being said, you should really stamp with, I'd say, 7 to 10 or more pieces of just blotter paper underneath your stamps and surface, just to compensate for any kind of irregularities in the surface, and it'll contour to the bottom of your stamp when you do that. I didn't do that through this series of cards here for this video, but I should have, especially for this pre-folded dark purple card. Okay, so when I say dark pre-fold, you can see that ridge right in the middle there. That thing got in my way when I stamped out a couple of other images that would be on the end up being on the back side of the card. Because I tend to do wraparound if it's this type of card, like a pre-folded card. Why not, make use of that backside area? When you do that, you kind of get this sequencing, almost like a book where you flip one page to the other on pre-folded cards. It's almost as if you're looking on the front of the card and then the back of the card and then both together. Okay, now see that ridge right there? I'm not stamping out on a cushioned surface, so I missed that area right there on that tree. So I'm just going to fill that in right there with some additional trees, and it's no problem, okay? I mean, I could fill in more. Here's another impression, and here's another one, just to kind of fill that area in. And remember, that whole area is going to be embossed in the end result, so that'll also fill that area in if we wanted to. Okay, now I'm just standing up, getting more leverage here, but again, I should have put a stack of some blotter paper underneath there. All right, so we got a good impression there, and we have a nice continuous shoreline, or far shore, for this lake that we're doing, okay? Now I'm doing some, okay, I filled in a little bit extra there. Okay, so, sorry, I'm stamping a little bit off the page. I zoomed in for some, I don't know, reason earlier. Okay, now I'm using this tree here for foreground this time instead of stamping it out to the side of the Lakeside Cove Large. By the way, this is the Pines and Rocks stamp. These two stamps right here also come in Nature Set number 8, if you're interested. It's one of those sets that I'm going to be doing some live workshops with eventually, or I should say pretty soon. It's just a really good basic set of images. Nice and bold, very universally applied. You can use it for, white cardstock, or you can use it for very dark scenes because these images are very solid and kind of silhouette based. The rocks aren't solid black, but the trees are. Okay, now you can see where I've stamped it out, but foils are so reflective, sometimes looking at them straight on, it's hard to see because of the reflections in the foil. It's almost like a mirror. Okay, now this one, going with some additional trees in the foreground might be too much because I stamped the trees, or the shoreline, lower on this card, so I'm going with the reeds instead on this piece. Okay, so you see that right there. Now remember, this is a pre-folded card, so you wouldn't be looking at, you wouldn't be initially be looking at this card opened up like that as a two-page spread. So you have to kind of approach those two cards, or this one card, as two separate ones in terms of the front and back. Okay, now here comes the powder. I'm applying it to this one first because this is an uncoated paper. So I was just a little bit afraid that that VersaFine Clear ink would dry too fast for me to be able to apply this powder and have it stick effectively, okay? Now look at this right here. I knocked off too much of that powder. It looked pretty good when I initially went over it, but I had to sprinkle some additional on there and not tap it off as much like that, okay? So I'm just gently tapping off a little bit of the excess, like this. See, I go really gently to retain more of that powder on the surface, okay? Now if I'm using that VersaFine Clear on a glossy cardstock or a semi-coated cardstock or a foil especially, it stays nice and wet. Okay, now this is a semi-coated card. It's iridescent, and it is slightly porous, but these iridescent papers do have that coating on it, so when it comes to an oil-based pigment ink like a VersaFine Clear, you're retaining a lot of that moisture on the surface a little bit longer. Okay, and I got a little bit too much embossing powder, so I'm just wiping it off here with a little bit of paper towel like that. But you notice how thick the embossing powder is on this iridescent, slightly coated paper. All right, that was me just putting a little pinch where I took off too much powder. And here comes the big, very moist surface because the VersaFine Clear is not absorbing at all into the surface because it is completely sealed off, okay? So we have all of that moisture still on the surface right there, okay? All right, so let's start heat embossing here. I'm always still a little bit worried about, heating something up for too long. Still getting used to the embossing and just kind of how much heat to apply. I don't know, is there such thing as going overboard in terms of the powders? I guess so, right? I mean, most of what I'm concerned with is the paper just getting completely warped. But I don't know, so far so good with most of the surfaces except for photo paper. Photo paper, if you held it too long, it really started melting that emulsion surface. Okay, that lapis lazuli took it rather well. Okay, now I'm not sure if you can see what's happening here, but do you see that different coloration? I thought, oh my god, I'm getting different colors, so I started going on the back, but it just wasn't doing anything. So the color of this red foil, it's a deeper red foil, but see how it's turning more of kind of like a warm tone? That's not just a reflection, that was actually happening. So I try to balance it off, and I just tone it all out. See that dark area? And I filled it in there, and it just turned that whole card kind of this other color of red. It's almost a richer color of it too. I don't know, it seems deeper. So I don't know what it did, but foils are some kind of metal and it's underneath this coating, so I don't know, it just had an interesting look. Okay, now I tried to heat this from the backside to see if it would counter bow, but it doesn't. This foil here it's a really high quality foil and it's very thick. So I just counter bend it like that, and I'm going to mount the cards anyways, so it'll flatten it out. Okay. So on this right here, just like on photo paper, see how that it's changing colors again. It's like when it dried the embossing powders kind of looked a little different. Now the more I emboss, or the more I heat those images, embossed images, the more transparent the image became. See how, I mean, it's like a gray. It's not even black anymore. I'm guessing because it's physically mixing with a clear medium, so it's not as dense a black anymore. That's the only thing I can kind of guess. Now, I don't know. What if I just held the gun to it the whole time? Would it turn clear? I don't know. All right, so there's front, back, and two-page spread. So it's almost like 3 cards in one. All right, that's the way I see that. And then you have the interior spread too. So maybe it's like 4. It's like 4 experiments or compositions. I don't know, presented together. It's not a triptych or anything like that when you're talking about a folded card, but you also have the interior. Okay, so but look at the difference in kind of value in terms of light and dark those are. The more matte it is, the darker it looks, okay? The iridescent, the blue one, is a little bit in between kind of the completely non-porous and the very porous, right? But look at that. I don't know, it's like 3 different types of surfaces there. Okay, so these cards, they work really well with quotes. So I'm going to use a quote stamp, and I'm just going to do it in the Brilliance White, okay? I'm just grabbing the Brilliance White here. On the matte dark purple piece, you can use any pigment ink, okay? But the pigment ink, this Brilliance ink, I should say, works on all 3 of these. Even the iridescent, it'll dry, and it'll dry on the red foil as well. Okay, other types of pigment inks usually don't. They're oil-based, but this one's a water-based one. Okay. All right, so trying to figure out if I should stamp out a quote on the front. I'm not sure. Okay, now this piece is so warped and bent. I just decided, okay, this is going to be hard to stamp on, right? If you're stamping over kind of a curved surface, so I'm going to mat these up and just really flatten them out. And you just flatten them out by, I just mat it on an extra piece of cardstock. And this one right here has the glossy perimeter. And this one right here has a black matte perimeter. A glossy black perimeter on that one I thought detracted from the imagery because it wasn't as dark as the imagery, so it just kind of made the imagery look anemic. So I went with the matte so that the glossy, even very light imagery still stands out, okay? All right, so we're going to stamp this little word stamp. I was thinking about going to the side, but on the interior quote, I centralized it. So to create, a little bit of continuity between the front of the card and the interior, I'm centering that word stamp right there. See, it's like that. And I don't know, I didn't flip it open again there, but that quote on the inside was centered. All right, now on this one right here, I was trying to decide what to stamp out in terms of words. I don't have a lot of space in the sky in this scene, so because of that Milky Way, okay? If I stamp one of these in white over that Milky Way is just too busy. So, I don't know, I just chose a quote, one of the quote stamps from Scenic Sentiments sheet number 2. That was fairly bold, that would stand up against all those little tiny stars. And it would still, I don't know, thematically fit with the with the scene. All right, even a small star shines in the darkness. That quote would really go well with like one star in the sky, but I thought it went pretty well with the Milky Way because there's a ton of like tiniest of little dots that really stand out. All right, now on this one right here, I don't know, it was kind of a tough choice in terms of what I wanted to stamp in there. The foil itself is just so, kind of powerful of a visual point, okay, because it's reflective and anything that it's pointed at reflects in the area, so you get a lot of light, everything like that, okay. So I just decided to go with one real kind of, just bold word stamp, okay, instead of a quote. And I thought that kind of combined with the piece really well, Starlight, okay. Um, if you did some other type of quote, like lake or something like that, you could have stamped it down on the lake surface. But see that red in there? I don't know, it's just so different because of that heating. It really kind of, I don't know, added these different kind of formations or swirls depending on how long I kept the heat on. Okay, so is it barely art? I don't know, whatever, the new glue right there. Thanks for those who are giving me all the tips on this glue. Some people said, don't put the tip on, but it seems like the consensus is go ahead and leave the ultra fine tip on the glue and just put that pin into the tip for, when you aren't using it. But I really love that detailed fine tip there. And I love the strength of this glue, okay? I was having some of these crystals using my other glue, which probably isn't meant for things like foils and things like that. So that was the Tombow one. And plus it was like 20 years old or something like that. So, but this one, I can tell, I can almost tell right from the get-go that this is a stronger glue than the one I was using. It goes on there, and even after like an hour or two, I think it said it's fully cured in an hour. But overnight, I should say. But in like an hour, I kind of pushed on some of the crystals that I applied last night, and they were really quite firm, firmly affixed. So just as long as I use enough, I think it'll be good. But there's all those little stars like that. Look at those. I think those make really nice additions to the piece. I kind of put those up in the corner like that because when I was applying that white glue that dries clear yesterday, I could not see in that field of white dots where my dots of glue were yesterday. So, all right. So even a small star shines in the darkness. I was thinking about going with one crystal there, but that looks completely out of place. I don't know. And plus, it's not really small. It's the largest one. So I thought, okay, forget about kind of the quote. The small star refers to all those tiny little stars that are spattered. So I just decided, okay. I liked the previous ones so much with those stars, I decided to go with several of them here in this piece. I got a little glue on my crystal gem picker there, but here we go with the little stars, little twinkles there. I'm kind of pushing my card down. It was a little warped there, but pressing it down did the trick. Okay, and on this one here, we'll go with some stars on the outside of the card. I didn't put it on the front and back, okay? Because if you mail this to someone, if you have those stars on the backside, I think it's going to press through during in transit anywhere. So I decided just to use the crystals on the front here. And here comes the multi size crystal pack. I love these clear crystals here. One time when I was at a retreat, I said, I should get some rhinestones. And someone said, "Oh no, Kevin, it's crystals you want." I wasn't aware there was a difference, but these are, I don't know, on the description they call it crystal rhinestones. So I think they're used for nails, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so there's some stars there. I think it really helps the piece. I'm a little overexposed right here on the camera. It's a little bit darker, the cardstock, but I bump up my exposure when doing these pieces. So anyways, there's the card right there. That makes for a pretty quick one in terms of, I don't know, just start to completion. This one, I really like this red one here quite a bit. What do you think? I like that little just starlight right there. I didn't emboss the words either because I wanted those to kind of recess from the bolder raised images of the the emboss. Okay, now I was putting this red next to this red because I thought it looked like it turned completely lighter when I embossed, but then when I held up some of the just bare foil, I thought, oh, it's kind of the same value, so I'm not sure. And here you have the Stardream Lapis Lazuli. I was buying so much Stardream, different colors of Stardream, about a year ago, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm spending too much money on all these Stardream kind of cover stocks, so I bought this text weight one, and I thought, I don't know, that text weight is pretty good. It doesn't curl as much as the thicker cover weight one. Cover weight one feels really good to work on, but the text weight one is it's pretty good. All right, so 3 cards done pretty quickly, and it's a simple type of kind of technique here of using the embossing with the different surfaces, and I think it looks pretty good on all of them. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video and this experiment and the look of these cards. Thanks for watching.